So now, among the audience, there's some of the people's face very familiar to me. So I consider the friend, I'm a long time friend. So I'm wondering how much change in your own sort of mental level and change your real life. So actually, as far as spiritual is concerned, spirituality is concerned, improve oneself, not just academic level knowledge, but translate this knowledge, transform our emotion. Then, of course, I think unique, the Buddhism journal, particularly Nalanda tradition, utilize human intelligence maximum way, through that way transform our emotion. So that's why you see these difficult subjects become very important. Just a faith, just not faith, right? Use our intelligence, analyze. Then we get so deeper understanding about reality. I think quite a simple sort of the reason. Most of destructive emotion based on ignorance, distorted sort of say, impressions, view,
distorted views.
Distorted view. So deeper understanding, the deeper reality, is that distorted sort of the perception, and then reduce. So that's the basis of all destructive emotions, such as anger, hatred, attachment, all these. So the practice, for example, practice of love, compassion, immediately some kind of, also the counterforce, anger, hatred. But from the Madhyamika philosophical viewpoint, so that alone will not
eradicate.
Weaken or eradicate it.
No, eradicate.
No. So therefore, the understanding about the reality. So according to my own experience, now a practitioner whose age now 80 years old, I think the last 30, 40 years, I seriously thinking. It's in the theory which clearly explained by Nagarjuna, immense help is to reduce intensity of these destructive emotions. So these things really something living if we seriously practice. These are the way of practice. These things are analyze, not just close eye and some form of faith, not that way. Fully alert your mind, analyze. Then you see really some effect, the foundation of destructive emotion. That is something very unique, very good, very important. So some of my friends, noticed why Dalai Lama now, and some time back, always talking altruism. Now recent years, talking about shunyata. Because of my own experience. Of course, I never sort of claim I have some very sort of the high sort of the realization. No, but still I'm trying. So effort, years, really makes differences. Like that. So now, the Madhyamika Mulakarika was this text. The Nagarjuna's, the main writing, 6, that's the major writing, right?
No.
And this is most important sort of because of the text. It contains 27th chapter. So I not yet to finalize because of the kurim kadishoina. Not just Timosana.
So I'm not yet decided about the sequence. How I should go with the sequence of the teaching these texts.
To Buddhist community, more or less, I say the religious way. Then usually I start 26th chapter, then 18th, like that. But sometimes I feel first to the 4th chapter. So that clearly, sort of say the clear presentation about what's the meaning of emptiness, shunyata. Then at the end, what that philosophical understanding, what implication for practitioner, right?
No.
So I'm wondering, first to the 6th chapter, as a Buddhist practitioner, and go that way, or first, you see, the 24th chapter, almost like academic subject. Then what the implication for practitioner? So what do you prefer? Huh? Karsa? I don't know. Still, let's say, because of this position, final authority in my own hand. So perhaps I prefer, firstly, simply explanation about ancient Indian thought and what the differences. Then later, what is the implication? And
no.
Implications where?
Implications. No. No.
Implication. So this time I want to go that way. Do you agree or reject still? Actually, you see, Buddha's sort of the first teaching, first Dharma wheel, the Four Noble Truths. The way he teach Four Noble Truths, more deva, chawar deva, deva,
No. So when the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths, he first taught about the nature of the Four Truths, and then went on to what are the functions of these Four Noble Truths, and then went on to the result that actually comes about through the practice.
No. So that shows shi nezu, lamji nezu, debu nezu sati, shiram desu.
So that shows the ground level truth, and then the path system, process of the path, and then the results that you reach.
So that's, I think, according to Buddhist tradition, Buddhist thinking, all these marvelous sort of experience must develop on this ordinary our mind with this emotion. So first, we have to know the today's reality. Then, you see, because of that reality or possibility of change, then make effort. So Buddha's own experience. Originally, Buddha Shakyamuni, Gautam Buddha, also, you see, like us, ordinary sentient being. Then gradually, again, you see, with some sort of proper teacher, the previous Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, and gradually, you see, he put some effort to change his mind, or to transform his emotion. Then through that way, eventually he become Buddha. So according to his own experience, he also show us, firstly, what's the basic kasota nature. Shi nezu.
Basic nature.
Basic nature. So now, I think basic nature, although it's a concept of true truth, the non-Buddhist tradition also have the concept of true truth. And in the Buddhism, all four different schools of thought all have the concept of true truth.
Yes. There are two truths in Sanskrit, I think known as Samvriti Satya and Parama Satya.
True truth. So true truth means truth of appearances, truth of deeper reality. I think the old major religious tradition, not even whether you use the term truth or not, all major religious tradition, accept that concept. Now, for example, the theistic religion, appearances, yes, as we are seeing, but deeper level, God, Creator. So we cannot see Creator. So on the level of appearances, deeper level, concept of Creator. So we can, from Buddhist viewpoint, we can say true truth. They're like Sangha philosophy, true truth, one truth on the level of appearances, all these different sort of phenomena. At a deeper level, Jizo.
On the deeper level, the Sankhya school presents what is known as a primal factor.
What is Sanskrit word?
Prakriti or Pradhana.
Now in Buddhism, there are major four schools of thought: Vivashik, Sautrantic, Chittamantra, and Madhyamika. And each of them, again, subdivisions. So now I think I may start. Danga samolo, chingmo sukta ti ro reksha. This changlo dan tong de adro.
So all of us, it's our own experience that we see the form, physical forms, and hear sound, and have the experiences of these sensual objects of our senses, visual sense, auditory sense, then olfactory sense, and then taste, and called object of taste, and then tactile objects.
No. That the shegen to sorgen. That the sheba sa means that. Sheba, Rangshin Ruko, Sheba Sheba, Ribber Sheba. Didn't she? The Koyan Sugjem and the Sheba Shetach.
So when we have these experiences, what actually experience these objects, the sounds, form, and so forth, is called consciousness or awareness.
That Tanya Sheba Tanya Jana Majane, on some log, not let it go.
Whether we use the term consciousness or mind or whatever we use, we all have these experiences.
That didn't Shiva boss at the Galido. Ripopo.
So there is this agent, which is the experiencer, and then we also talk about the one who experiences these different experiences.
Now here is a lot of discussion whether there is independent self or not. So independent self, usually the Hindi word called Atma. Here now Buddhists say no independent self. So theory of anattama theory, selfless theory. Of course, all except the knower must be there. Without knower, how can you describe? So I see this, I heard that. So we cannot say. So knower must be there. So I think all spirituality, I think, except concept of soul or Atma. So there, also the explanation is the consulta. Beside this body, there must be something, according to Christianity, or according, I think, Islam, or many other traditions. So after this life, the concept of heaven or hell, like that. And many, I think, the traditional belief, like Japanese Shinto, like Shinto, is in many sort of also the ancient sort of view, traditional view. After this body, there must be something. So that should be independent from this body. So concept of soul, concept of Atma comes. I think actually once you accept creator, and I think creator actually, you see, created soul. Maybe, I don't know. Because of the soul, and then eventually this body development. Isn't it? Without soul, that is just conception. Mother's egg and the father's semen. I don't think without soul can develop as a living being. What do you think? So creator, indirectly we can say this body created by God. The deeper way, I think creator created our soul. What do you think? This you? So you see, and then I think even ancient time, sometimes some children express some strange things. So out of their curiosity, then gradually you see people create, something there. That should be permanent. And then also our own experience. You see, now for example, myself, after 80 years, still I can say when I was young, when I was born, so same I never felt this body, when I born, this body already there. No, some different form. This old age sort of person sort of body at the time of birth, not there. So that's quite obvious. And the mind also, after sort of educated sort of mind, when not yet educated, right? Nobody says same. Right? Mental level also differences. But then I is same when I was young. So I think these are the reasons. You see, then gradually you see develop one theory. I is permanent and oneness, never changing. So I think all spirituality, we can say two groups. One, accept permanent self, I. One, that's only Buddhism. One, no permanent the self or soul. So self or soul just designated on the combination of this body and mind. So now, within Buddhism, Weber Sheikh had a authentic Sukjen Choji Chami, Sheva Giji Chami, Chami Shivdua.
So the Vibhashikas and the Sotantikas, they posit, with regard to the matter, they talk about indivisibility of particles in terms of the extension or the having different sides to them. And then with regard to the consciousness, they talk about indivisibility in terms of their continuity.
자사가 더 드라마 디니시 두자네 숙진 초참이 더 참이 숙진다 참이 셰바 슬럽도 던던데 바로 찍도 와.
And so for the Vaibhashika school of thought, such an indivisible particles in terms of having no sides to them, and also the consciousness in terms of not having any momentary divisions within them, they are said to be ultimately existing.
숙제집이나 거기 좀 가서 봐 개진지 봐 좀 봤다. 양지 봐 차셔서서 봤잖아. 그 랑진 그게 또 봐. 무슨 내통인지 좀 봐. 또 차셔서 살지라 랑지 또 행동에 되라. 부서져 봤어. 시도.
And so the definition that the Vaibhashikas give to the ultimate things that they assert as being ultimately existing or conventionally and existing.
Air condition, this side, quite cold. Although Dharamsala, very cold, but still, it's just very strong.
So for
within a few weeks, is some problem. It's because I sneeze.
No,
sneeze. No. And also that affect my eye, some problem. And also I think naturally, getting older, now these things now begin to say goodbye like that. Or recently, through my friend in Germany, is a long-time friend, he recommended one specialist for knees. And I met, and he checked. And beside my knees, also he checked whole my body. Then he mentioned, your body is very good, oh, no problem. Then this knees also not very serious. But then he told me, you are not 18 years old, but 80 years old. So when he mentioned that, I felt that Tamara should cause my.
Yes. I felt it kind of a big lesson to me.
Oh. So as a Buddhist practitioner, it's in daily practice, it's including analyze on impermanence, momentarily changing, and also sort of grosser level of changing also. So sometimes I also feel, still feel when I was quite young. So his advice, very helpful, reminds me now 80-year-old. Isn't it? Then it automatically reduces complaint. Oh, some problem here, eyes. Then remember, 80 years old now. No longer much reasons to complain, isn't it? Like that. So the yes. Okay. So then Sotantik.
And so, according to the Vaibhashikas, they describe or they define the ultimate existence as those things which, when you try to break them down into their constituent parts further, if they still don't lose their identity, then they consider those things to be ultimate existing things. Whereas if you, for example, if you break something or if you mentally kind of divide the thing into its constituent parts further, into smaller parts and so forth, if it loses its identity as that object, then that is considered to be conventional existent or truth.
Then Sotantik. 패저 수단되게 패저입니다. 대니 샤단디 tantam tension never comes. It 가서 오지. 다 가다 지 tension never 디 뭐지 tantam 봐. 에 지진 딱배지 그저 담았어. 독시도 봐. 패지 리베전하고 너들에 참인 누가 말해. 리베전하고 너들 봐. 정도 정기도게 리베전하고 너들에 수진 좋아지 참이다. 시박이 참인 누구 말해. 리베전하. 롱그전하고 배지 누구 말해. 시장 와서 그러지. 저 참인 등에 소리지. 리베전하 등에 오늘 시험 내가 증명도. 다 가다 좀더 공매 참이다 면도 그래.
And then for the Sautrantika philosophy, philosophical school, they describe those things that are that actually function, that which things which do produce the products and so forth. Those are considered to be ultimately truth, and then things which do not have such function, but things which are permanent, as they describe, unchanging things. Those are, phenomena. Those are considered to be conventional truth. And so this is true in terms of and then for this, within the Sautantika school, there are two sub-schools. Those Sautantika which follow scripture, and the Sautantika following reason. And the Sautantika following scripture, for them, they do seem to assert some indivisible things which are called partless particles and so forth, whereas I'm not very clear as to whether the Sautantika following reason, they do assert that kind of indivisible particles and so forth.
That's
so both the Sautantikas and Vaibhashika schools, they do accept things existing externally.
Now Chitta Mantra is a mind-only school of thought, right?
No.
Chitta Mantra. So they further sort of investigate what is the reality supposed to appears as externally exist. So analyze. Then gradually, you see, that school of thought, you see, says, so long observer there, object there, no longer observer there, then observer also not there.
Observed object is not there.
The quantum physics, how should we see?
No. So regarding this, what the Chittamatra say, I found one quantum physicist, Indian quantum physicist whom I met recently, saying the same thing, almost very similar to what the Chittamatras are saying.
Did you observe that?
No. So with regard to what he said was that as long as there is an observer, there is an observed object. And without the observer, you can't talk about an observed object as such.
Did you do some zambe? Senji mikbo ngeba sachi. Pena ngunzi, pena ngobudu chashana. Chisi ngunzi mishi yebe ringdala ngobudu yares. Ngunzi mishi mena ngobudu mares. Did you understand? Any mixture mishi you would be two ngedebe sorchi. Did you do Senji mikbo ngebe chir? Ngota talo shema yinsane. Ane songa ngobote da din zimba ngunzi mishi yibudi ane ko mikbo ngebe yusane kuni 가서 그게 다 재식 소리스. 연아 연염 맨날 매년 소리스. 근데 인도 나 짐베 셰바다 더니 타데베 아니 치료 수준이 쳐 야마리스. 다 치료 야마리 쳐. 치료 더로 야마리스. 숙저서 메스가 말해. 숙저서 열에 열이 런진 똑벌래. 런진 똑배 다 가서 똑바 다니지는 것도 똑바로 재직을 재시도 주야 말이지.
So, according to the Chittamatras, what they say is that as long as when we talk about the observed and the observed object and the observer, for example, let's take the example of a blue object or something which is blue and a color blue, for example, and the perception of that color blue. So between these two, what the Chittamatras, the Chitta mind-only school say is that as long as there is this perception of the blue, the observer, there is the observed object, the blue. And therefore, they exist simultaneously like that. And so because of that, they say, because these two, the observed and the perception of the blue and the blue color, they are seen simultaneously. Therefore, they say there is no blue externally existing. So that doesn't mean that blue does not exist at all, but what they mean is that it doesn't have any external existence apart from the being of the same substance with the perception of the blue.
자, 다 뒤에 디 잡고 열다. 숙진기 최디 피기 tenjingmen 주요 말이야. 디 잡고 슬레고도.
So this saying that things do not have any external existence is quite similar to saying that things do not have any objective existence from the side of the object.
That's quantum physics.
So this is what actually quantum physics also explains.
다 아드섬 잠배 아드 두즈디 지기 연나 tenjingmen의 예버지 시샤체제. 다 치르 그 속도로 디디 그 랑진 똑버디야나 예배소시다. 맨에 예배소 차인주잖아요. 그 아니 tenjingmen의 주요 말이 진리도다 때는 매버리스. 그 때는 매서다. 가르치 전주요 말이스. 다디 치르 요 말이스 디시고. 다 우모벌이 열려있잖아요. 우모벌이 어다 독선주도 또 우모벌이 열려있는데 아니 또 우모벌 나려야 낭식이 치드민등의 용기하래. 로미 시워츠 송드스 나로는 치드미시베 소르지. 치드가베 아니 송즈 제신 유동에 and the number something you don't get to me there, shake. Chada Nancy did it, Mendachi on the door. The Kanda or any Yana, turning money, Yokobashi, Shisha Jayundu, any mixing lotele shamba, Miba, Chirugmiboti, the Shamotoasha. Umabe turning money, Yomiko. 타냐 딱 배운 게 예버시 샤투도 전에 아니 노지 딱 배운 게 예봐 근데 상당도나 뒤에 있는 치 송어지고 뭐 봐. 난 점버대 아니 다준잖아 니게 되지 치르고 송어대 다준잖아 이게 되지 되고 단 담으로 모두에 따르면 그 매백께서 말이지 자상가 단담도 매바다 매바니부터 이어치지 치송이네리 나즈베이네리 니가로 단담을 줘야 말이지 들이도 다도선 이거 말이지 근데 매바 말이지 애니 치송이 요초그래 나즈베이 그래 그니 연애 연념에 단여도 연념 단담도 매념 디셔도.
So what the Chittamatras are saying, basically, when they say that things do not have any external object, existence, is when this assertion is made on the ground that if something exists, it must exist objectively, and because of this, that there must be something existing from the side of the object. And so because of that, they say there is no external object existing at all. And therefore, what this also shows is as long as there is a conception, a conceptual mind, which actually conceives or perceives an object, there is an observed object. Otherwise not. So this is what the Chittamatras say, and therefore sounds, matter, physical objects, and so forth exist as long as there is a perception or a conceptual thought which perceives it. for the Chittamantras. And then similarly, within the Madhyamaka philosophical school, the Yogacharas Madhyamaka, Savatantrika Madhyamaka school of Master Shantarakshita also seems to say that there is assert a similar kind of position as the Chittamantras. But then the difference is that for the Madhyamakas, things do not have to have any objective or independent existence from the object side of the object, but they could be posited or asserted to exist on the ground that they are labeled or designated. So by way of designation, things are said to exist. And therefore, they say that the things do not have any ultimately, in the ultimate sense, things do not have any existence, although they do exist by way of convention.
Yeah.
And so from this point of view, we need to make the distinction from the Madhyamaka point of view that things, if something exists, it should not exist in the ultimate sense. But that doesn't mean saying that things do not have any ultimate existence does not mean that things do not have any existence.
Oh, yeah. 자, 우마베나라 타연 담벌 아니 원이 뭐 주어. 탄에도 원이 주어지 그냥 송댕이 찍게. 다 탄에도에 원이 주어 매신다 송샤지. 다더 퀀텀 피직스 해야지. 자 치수진 시샤전에. 아더 퀀텀 피직스 해야 되기 오브젝티브를 두고는 야말 쓰다데 딱단 동에서 수도.
And so within the Madhyamakas, there are, again, we can see two strands of views. One says that things do not have any essence in them, essential existence in the ultimate sense, whereas they do still assert that things have some kind of essence in conventional terms. Whereas the other strand or the sub-school of Madhyamaka says that even in convention you can't say things have any essential existence at all. And so saying that things do not have any essential objective existence at all is quite similar to what quantum physicists also say.
더 숙제시하다.
No. So this relates only to within the quantum physics purview of the quantum physicist. I mean, on quantum physics, we usually they deal with matter.
자, 다 오물루르기. 자도 되는 소야디. 탄에도에 원이 주어야 말해서 다들 숨겨래.
So Master Nagarjuna's emphasis is that things do not have any, even in convention, that they do not have any essential existence.
자, 당연한 덕이 전돈 얘기 참여 시시직 시야 되겠지. 다 좀더 고민해 보지 참여 맵시. 다 실분의 차제에 비춰시. 다 답을 우마벨 로그다 실분의 차제에 비춰시. 그래서 다들이 인도산에 냐라 차제에 비치 시야윤도 아니 쇼가다 가이네 차셰 시기요 인도산에 그다 가서 보게 차전시 다 연구를 봐. 다 차도 차전시. 다 봐도 삼다나 차셰 소소네 세레제라 차셰 로스 민도가. 다 차셰 차전시 매네야 그 차셰 샤도 말와. 자상가 차셰디 차전을 때 차전디 차셰를 때니 편수 때문에 차도 차전 조규마도 더 랑센지기 디차전 뭐부터리 디차셰레스 모두가 좀 되나라 이제 지트셔야지 우수 좀 시작하고 지 원이 좀 시샤전에 시작용 인도잖아요 그 차셰를 넣어서 차셰를 떠봐매베 이제 지치고 그랬어요 지트셔야 시작도
So earlier we talked about the Vaibhashikas.
더번 이미 미신다. 더번 이미 미신데 간다. 차셔도 로스다 차진. 세월의 로스 지 텐션 요거리스. 봐. 부지 당무서 다 들으시는
Earlier we referred to the Swatantika and the Vaibhashika schools, asserting that there are things or objects or phenomena which are partless. We can reduce down to partless particles or partless consciousness and so forth. And so these two schools do assert things which are partless as such. And whereas the higher schools of tenet within Buddhism, such as Chittamatra and Madhyamakas, they do not assert such things. And so, especially for the Madhyamakas, for example, they say that whatever exists must have parts. And so that's a necessity. So if something exists, it must have its parts. And therefore, when we talk about things having parts, what we can see is that if we actually take a whole thing and then break it down or take down into its parts, what we find is that apart from the different parts that make up a thing, you cannot have something called a whole, and like a vase, for example. And therefore, for the Madhyamakas, apart from the parts, there is no whole, and similarly, and vice versa. And so, therefore, the parts and the whole that they make up are mutually dependent. And so, whereas this is what the higher schools of Chenetsu in Buddhism says, certain schools, with the non-Buddhist schools, for example, they assert, when we talk about parts and
Do you know Sanskrit?
There is a term which is called ji, or universal phenomena, which is it's like that universal phenomena. For example, if you have a concept of a cow, there is a concept of a cow which can actually cover all the different instances of cows, for example. And so the certain non-Buddhist schools say that universal phenomena called the cow is actually separate from the instances of the cows that we can actually point to and see. And therefore, for them, why they say such thing is because if for them that kind of universal phenomena has to be something which has to be an existence. And so they say that this universal thing is separate from the instances of cows. And so, whereas if you really look for that...
That terminology?
I think so, but I'm not sure. I think it's Gataka. It's in...
Gataka.
It's in the universality.
Yes.
Is different from particularities.
Yes, yes. So the Sanskrit term, according to Venerable, is Gataka. So what is said by these kind of philosophical schools is that the Gataka, or this universality of thing, is separate from the particular instances of the cow.
Oh yeah. 자상가다 차드 차젠 러비누자네 딱 수 거리를 딱 타냐 딱 받고는 예배 가는 수다 가서 년년 주도 와. 차드 차젠 매나야 듣는도 와. 차드 차젠 요리디 와. 제가 집에 있나 펜준 때마다 매쟁했지. 다디기 자질 내서 상황을 누스 자유고요. 사진이 인도 뜨네다. 가서 그게 샤고야지. 그래 그게 펜은 되겐기 처지 그 제가 집에 있나 샤모줘야지. 그 펜준 때네 샤고마도 매쟁이시. 드리 누산에다 뚜줍 세게 딱게스들이도.
And so when we actually look closely at this thing about the parts and the whole, and the more we kind of look or search for the parts and the whole, what we actually come down to is that we cannot have a part without a whole and whole without a part, and therefore we cannot say things have any kind of existence apart from being mutually dependent, and therefore we come to the closer to the understanding of how things are designated, labeled. And so here we can see that apart from the parts, there's no whole, and vice versa, and therefore we can see them being, the part and the whole being mutually dependent, and there's no other way we can actually assert apart from being mutually dependent. And similarly, it is the case with actions, agent, and the acted upon, and the object, and so forth. I mean, they do not have any existence apart from being mutually dependent. And so in this way, we can actually talk about things which affect us in our life, our experiences, and so forth, can only be explained in terms of being dependent upon other factors. And therefore, because they are dependent, we can also come to the conclusion that they are relative.
나 observer, right? Self. 나 디 야 딱준 자리나 풍불려 넣어서 샤이점도.
And then, if we relate to the observer, relating to ourselves as observer of objects, apart from this, cannot also be found. The observer, as such, cannot be found apart from the psychophysical aggregates.
저자가 너 다시 발리 중나래 요래 여자 저자니 다지죠 뒤있음 되는 따오르 교보인스 아니 두지 풍부 뒤동데 아니 더다는 여마인사지.
And so it seems this quotation is also found in Pali tradition, Pali scripture, which goes, this notion of an I or self is a devilish mind, and it is the kind of source of all kinds of distorted views, and then it goes on to say that apart from the composite factors, the compounded objects that make up a being, there is no self.
워낙 self 매버 베스는 말이스. 아니 지도 연락선으로 되는지도 좋았어 말이지.
So having said that there is no self in this scripture, it further goes on to say that having said that there is no self, does it mean that there is no self at all? It's not the case, because it further goes on to say that just as a chariot is designated on the basis of its parts, likewise a person is designated on the basis of his or her psychophysical aggregates.
No. 저때는 거는 도 싸움을 한다. 나서고 직접 쉬우지 자주 쓰고 과도 싸움을 하고 있는 견념도.
So here, if you check within yourself, where is this I? We have the sense of I being me, I am this and that. But if you actually closely check where this I is, which we hold on to as we cherish so much, where is it actually?
So when we develop anger or attachment, automatically we feel, oh, I love this, I hate this. In that moment, if you focusing, where is that I? Then you see things immediately become something because of the mystery shaking. Right? So when we develop anger, hatred, or love, strong I. So I think even the ordinary level, those people who always see the arrogance, right? I. And such person, even small things, friendly way, teasing, immediately react very negative way. Those people who are quite mild, then you can tease. More serious, doesn't matter, isn't it? so like that, you see, that shows when these negative emotion develop, all these negative emotion very much related with sense of strong self, something so strong self. So now here, the more Kasuta, the concept, the more something independent self, then these emotions become more stronger. Yes. Then, you see, think or analyze, where is that strong self? You can't find. So that sort of was some kind of realization, feeling, no longer that kind of solid self. Then immediately, you see, they reduce, intensify, right?
Intensity.
Intensity of that strong feeling. That I think we can check our daily experiences. Clear? So now, some occasions I also express, I wish, you see, some people should carry some research objectively. Those scientists who sort of convinced that nothing exists objectively. Quantum physicists now. So, see, these people, when they because of the face, because of the chance or because of the circumstances, you see, develop anger, attachment. Such sort of scientists who firmly believe nothing exists objectively. Maybe there are some differences. I think if you see that scientist, you see, utilize that concept, that his sort of, because of the conviction, nothing exists objectively, then such, you see, actually firm conviction, scientists who have that kind of firm conviction, might be some differences, intensity of their destructive emotion. Not as a religious person, simply understanding the reality. So this negative emotion, you see, based on concept, things independently exist. That now, my friend, one American scientist, Aaron Beck. Since many years ago, I think more than 10 years ago, I met. You see, he mentioned when we develop anger, then the object, the person feel very angry. That object appears something very, very negative. When I was young, quite short temper, I often used to fight with my brother. So when my anger developed, then brother looks very negative. When anger gone, then my brother very nice. So same person, same brother, but the mental attitude, when anger develops, looks something negative, then I want to Christ or
Scratch his face.
So many years later, I found some marks on my brother's face. My nail is my best weapon. Age-wise, is elder brother, but very, very humble. Then the young Dalai Lama, very aggressive. So like that, I think we can check our daily life when we develop a negative emotion. See, that appears something very negative. So that scientist told me the negative sort of negativeness appears very, very negative. But actually, 90% of that negativeness is mental projection. So therefore, I think a person who totally believes, convinced nothing exists by independently, might be some differences, the intensity of their negative emotion, although they never consider as religions or these things, but simply the psychological way, its own system. So I wish, although I think most of the audience are quite old, so I don't know whether you have opportunity to investigate these things or not. Some younger one. The other day I met some young student. I mentioned, I hope some of you should carry some thorough investigation or observe different, scientists who study and who convinced is that quantum physics. I think some differences. I don't know. And usually, when we certain illness, when we seek advice from because of the doctors, they say, be easy, calm, rest, relax. I think it related when negative sort of emotion develop, something because of that trouble shifts to that.
So things do appear to have some kind of a solidity.
So relax means not that way. Calm. So I think, you see, some relations. Now this theory. But however, that you see theory, nothing exists by objectively, mere designation. So most of Buddhist philosophical views consider this is nihilism. Wrong. There must be something objectively exist. So now the chapter, 24th.
Page 70.
In the West, the laser beam will help to open
Karsa.
the split.
What? Karsa. Now your age, my long-time friend, sometimes I call her, Karsa, this is just Karsa. No. Karsa.
Girlfriend.
Sometimes I call her my girlfriend.
Doctors in the West say strange things, but they're not official university. They've had university and then they do it in private. They say things like that, cases like that. But in France, they put them in hospitals.
Lama.
That I think you should go first hospital.
With a laser beam. I'm sure it will come.
So this is quite interesting. This is just one way academic subject. So ancient Buddhist thinking, Buddhist thinkers actually investigate what's the reality. What's the reality? So it's a different school of thought. It's actually based on Kasota experiences deeper, deeper, deeper that way. So I usually, you see, telling people also, I also feel among sort of three major civilizations, Egyptian civilization, or maybe Iran's ancient civilization, right? Then Kasajuti, Indus Valley civilization, with origin of Indian civilization. Then Chinese civilization. I think among these three civilizations, I think Indus Valley civilization eventually, I think, produced greatest thinkers, philosophers, really highly developed. So now I think obviously, I feel, I love science or respect scientists. Genuine scientists, their mind is open and unbiased. Sometimes we religious people, a little bit biased. Oh, my religion, my religion, my religion. So those genuine scientists, I think, very open-minded, wonderful. So they are finding, I think, genuine through genuine scientific research and some conclusion according to their finding, I think quite reliable. So quantum physics, again, is one Indian scientist, actually nuclear physicist. I think you know his nickname, India's Sakharov. You know, who participated in India's nuclear weapon, building nuclear weapon. So one time, many years ago, you see, he told me he found the concept of quantum physics he found in Nagarjuna's writing. Rajaramana, yes, Rajaramana. So 2,000 years ago. So as an Indian, you see, he feels very proud. The quantum physics, this concept, the world, something new. But this country, 2,000 years ago, already found or developed that concept. So it is really, so I often used to teasing my Indian friends, modern Indian forget these things. Ancient Indian, really wonderful. I think then they have plenty of time to analyze these things. Modern Indian, much time spent, money, like that. Modern lifestyle, right? Like that. So I really feel Indian friend, traditionally our guru. So guru should pay at least some attention, some attention about these ancient Indian knowledge. I think very important. Then you can make some contribution to 7 billion human beings. Look, you see these very cruel people, people who very much cruelty is very low. And their intensity, we and they are enemy and worthy to eliminate, worthy to kill. Such strong, destructive emotion based on independent existence. Enemy, something independent, absolute. no possibility to change, so worthy to kill. If you see the intensity, the feeling, something independent, absolute enemy, reduce that. Today, that's our enemy, but there's a possibility to change. That's not independent, not absolute. So then, human way of approach, talk, meet, shake hand, then explain. So I think our way of thinking, these things is the instrument to change way of thinking. Not sort of political matter. It's basic human way of thinking. So education, including these things, I think very, very important. So ancient Indians are also taught these, I think, very relevant to today's world. I really feel that. And with India's 1,000-year-old sort of tradition, secularism, whether accept religion or not, so respect everybody. Respect all religion, respect the non-believer. I think combination, secular concept, and these deeper understanding about human emotions. Purely secular way. That's I really feel. So, many occasions I telling these things. Actually, the topic or the knowledge I steal from you. We Tibetan, I think quite clever. All knowledge from India, we just kept. We not export beyond Himalayan mountains. We just kept like that. The lifestyle or these things, so some people, some Tibetan, is a whole life not take bath, quite dirty. But here, quite intelligence, right?
No.
Right.
Good intelligence.
Share knowledge.
Long.
All these due to your knowledge. Really. So, respecting my guru. Now, I'm trying to shaking you last few centuries just to sleep about these sort of, because of the rich knowledge. Now I'm sort of shaking right now, appealing, please wake up, think these things. Really. I think it is quite pity if you lost. If we lost, then this knowledge completely lost. Up to now, we kept. Like that. So these ancient great thinkers, I usually describe, you see, these, like Nagarjuna, I usually describe professors of Nalanda institution, great thinker, great philosopher. And to us, of course, Buddhist master. But generally speaking, these are great thinker, great logician. So really, you should pay some attention, whether Buddhist or not, and whether believer or not, doesn't matter. These are asset knowledge. So I usually make sort of presentation these things as an academic subject, not a religious subject. Okay, like that. One occasion, many years ago, a few professors of Sanskrit University, in Varanasi, Professor Ubadeva, now no longer, then Tripathi, then another two. So 4 of them, you see, came to see me. Of course, I know since many years one occasion, they came to see me. Firstly, they requested me, Guhi Samanza initiation, Abhisheka. And I felt, oh, great honor. All these things we learned. Now, they really, because of that, very, very keen receive Abhisheka of Guhi Samanza. Although only three, only four was the person. I made special arrangement, send Mandala, and then give Abhisheka. So at that time, they also cry. I also cry. The translator also cry. Really, very moving. The ancient knowledge we learned from Indian gurus. Now time come, you see, to give it back.
To give it back.
To give back. Really, that moment, very, very moving moment. So like that. So these things are something you have to think seriously. I think in 21st century, I think human beings' mind through education, I think something because of the intelligent, right? No. More and more people loves reasons, experiment, the investigation. So this knowledge, something very, very interesting, and this knowledge ultimately related with our emotions. That's what we need. Isn't it? So now this chapter, Kazar, 24th. That in the Tsuzabat Chadawari is in the Tanya to your Ranzem can Malana, any Chadawaris, any Chokatakaine, Rangi, Mo, Rang Sinita, Zindiriari, any Rang Mo Zingik, any Tenshi, that's all of a Kora, Moni to get the manner, the damage to us, or that's about Chumata.
So the text now, chapter 24, starts by actually raising this question, which is raised by the realists, saying that the Madhyamakas actually are saying that things do not, by saying that things do not have any essence, any objective existence, is actually tantamount to say that they are saying things do not have any existence at all, and therefore, although things have their defining characteristics or their nature and so forth, the Madhyamakas, by saying that things do not have any essence, essential existence, are actually asserting things have no existence at all, and therefore they are nihilists.
So their argument from
the first
Angiduge,
Lao.
Angidomdo,
Angidula.
Angiduge,
Lao.
Chandibudinda, Jizampai Tanyani Gula never chava in, said Tibudu. Shorkoxido. Angi. Chama yin, the Chuyin, the Jizampai Tanyani Gula never chava ins.
Guna never chava ins. Chuba Patricia. Chuba. And so now, with regard to this argument from the nihilists, the verses from number 1 through to the 6th, these are the criticism from the realists.
So, if you do not accept something independent reality, then nothing there. So then your viewpoint is actually destroying all our concept, good and bad, or Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, or Nirvana, Samsara, all these. You see, there must be something there. Objectively, sorry. So if you do not accept that, then nothing. You are very serious nihilistic viewpoint. You are serious. Your theory, your viewpoint is nihilism. You can understand. You see, they're reading this. Then tell us about the Shloka Kuri. Tell us about Kyujini.
And then from the verse number 7 down.
Then Nagarjuna, then answer, or respond. These are also the argument. Kiranga the argument chetiati tongbani tanyaduya rangzen minduwe tongni tawate ene kirangi di chadawa resadi kirangi tongbani ki goba mashibares tongbani ki tön mashibares 말해도 tongbani ki ngo mashibares dene tongbani ki tön mashibares 대왕의 결항의 고와 친질로도 다하소래 고와 친질로 때문에 아니 never did study.
And so, to this criticism from the realists, Master Nagarjuna responds by saying, here we say that you do not understand emptiness, which means the nature of emptiness, and then or the purpose of emptiness, and or the meaning of emptiness. As a consequence, you are harmed by it. And so, what he Master Nagarjuna is saying here is against the realists, is that when we talk about emptiness and meaning that emptiness means that there is no objective existence in things, and you see that your criticism to us for saying that actually shows that you do not understand these three: the nature of emptiness, the purpose of emptiness, and the meaning of emptiness.
Now the purpose of this theory is to try to minimize these destructive emotions. The effective way to reduce the intensity of destructive emotion is you have to deal the basis of this destructive emotion. That's I already mentioned. You see, the concept of grasping things objectively exist independently. So long that is there, then as something solid basis of good thing or bad things. In this case, generally. So therefore, the attachment and anger, but deva, and tangtulemba, minduva, jibchi shawa. That the mindu sadi, jir da the mandra, yidong shatukumidwa. Da the drain yidong shawa.
And so when we talk about things that we actually try to obtain, the things that we like, we want to have them, and whereas things that we dislike, we are averse to them and push them aside from ourselves. And so when these are being done, when we do these things, either accepting things or rejecting, they actually are done on the basis of...
Tea break? No, I say. Then meditate about tea. You just meditate, having nice tea.
Yes. So with regard to tea, we usually have this saying, just imagine that you have tea. And so these, acceptance
so there's
or
one
the
story.
rejection.
One occasion in Tibet, you see the Lama, you see, I think some initiation or something. Lama, you see, often say, mevanzus.
So during the tantric initiations and blessings, the Lama usually says, imagine that such and such things being, happening.
Among the audience, one nomad is in his pocket, one the
lump of butter.
One butter.
No. Yes. So the nomad was actually carrying in his pocket a lump of butter.
Butter. So then he took out, you see that, and then Lama Kirana, Mahatujidya, Pishunyamba, Meba, just like that.
So as he heard this Lama saying all the time, imagine that you receive this initiation, this blessing and so forth. And at the end, he took out this lump of butter and said, Lama, imagine that I'm offering this to you. And then
Quite clever, isn't it? Yeah.
So these reactions, whether accepting or rejecting things, is actually done in relation to yourself, because of this sense of I that we have. Without relating to what is happening to you, you won't say either accept or reject. So these reactions have to do with the self.
So, two sort of nature of emptiness. One, emptiness of self. One, emptiness of object. So, these two sort of understanding. The understanding about the
Selfless.
the empty nature of self reduce the sense of I. Then that alone not sufficient. But the Vivashik, Sotandik, and I think the Chitta Mantra also, you see, that's sufficient, you see, to reduce the destructive emotion. Madhyamika, particularly the Nagarjuna, is to say, unless you fully realize the subtle level of emptiness of self, some subtle level of self-grasping still there. So more subtle level of destructive emotion still there. So you must have the understanding, the subtle level of emptiness of self. In order to understand that, it is very, without understanding the absence of independent existence of 5 seconds.
So and so unless you are able to actually reject the object onto which this grasping at true existence of psychophysical aggregates, unless you're able to do away with that grasping, you cannot actually reject the object of that grasping. You cannot reject or overcome the grasping at itself.
So the purpose of understanding shunyata is, you see, the elimination of this wrong view. Wrong view which acting basis of all these destructive emotion. These destructive emotion more or less spontaneously develop. The constructive emotion, such as strong karuna, or love, compassion, these develop through training. Training means use reasons. So these emotions based on reason. I think most of destructive emotion, not necessarily use reason. Of course, very superficial reason. Oh, this person is criticizing me. This person in the past also hurt me. Future also they have some sort of plan. So some kind of superficial sort of reasons there, of course. But there's no need to training. So those emotions develop through training, through reasoning, at a sound basis. The spontaneous sort of emotion. Most cases, for example, attachment appears not destructive, but attachment acting basis of hatred. More attachment, more easy to develop because of hatred or anger. Clear? So we need some kind of sort of knowledge about the whole map of emotion. That's very important. So we, last few years, we seriously discussed with scientists and educationists how to put in secular curriculum simple sort of explanation about map of emotion. So then, once you know more sort of clear about the system of this emotion, then easier to tackle. Like that. So therefore, most of destructive emotion based on ignorance. Now here ignorance, not only just ignorance, but distorted ignorance.
And so here by ignorance, we are not only talking about mere not knowing, but actually an active kind of misconception.
No. 다 된지 풍부 다 무슨 럽 차서 무슨 강사 된지 다 된지 차와 들어봐 된지게 다 된진데 강사 강을 때는 딱배 덕시 풍부 대버지 된진 봐 가서 그게 된진기 신유 다 순수에 냠용시 매나 강사가 돼서 참으디에 또 말이지 그래서 니
Yes. And so as long as you are not able to actually refute this object onto which the grasping as some kind of true existence in the psychophysical aggregates and latch on to, as long as you're not able to do away with the object or reject that kind of existence in the object, the psychophysical aggregates being truly existent, to that extent you will not be able to also do away with the grasping at a self or person as well.
다들 동력이 그버지. 다 동력이 무엇을 주잖아. 다 시제직들라. 된디 걸어가서 그게 된디 다 떠스내면도 유디 가서 유두시를 그돌이야. 각자 각별관에 또 각자 킥별관에 된디 루이샤직직. 다나 분법 매봤을라고이나 내가 각자 분법 사실 못 쳐니 다티 동버디 아니 로르샤고야지 디지들라 각봤어도 다 분법라고이나 분법 루이샤라 분법 루이샤랴 그 각자 제도네 로르샤메고 그 주베 관에 벽에다 로르샤돼야지 지전에 각중이 있으니 여치야디 다디 계속 싶어요.
And so that was regarding the purpose of the emptiness. And then next is the nature or the identity of emptiness itself. And so here what we have to understand is the distinction between the objects themselves are actually understood in terms of, from the point of view of being negation and affirmed objects. And so, for example, when we say when we talk about the absence of a vase here, first of all, you must have an idea of what a vase is like. And then you can actually say the vase is not here because of such and such reason. And so the absence of so to have this perception of an absence of an absence of a vase or something that is not a vase, you have to have the idea of what a vase is like, what a vase looks like. And so without which you cannot say that there is an absence of vase here. And so similarly, and then in other cases, like when you talk about a vase is when something that, an object that has certain shape and has a certain function, and then you actually call that an object a vase. And so you have, when you actually perceive a vase is not perceived by negating something but you just take the vase as an object of perception. Whereas when you talk about the absence of vase, you have to actually say that the vase is not here, and therefore you actually have the perception of the absence of vase. And so and so when you say, when you have this perception of an absence of a vase, what you actually see is mere absence of a vase. And you do not have to have the perception of vase right there. And so similarly, when we talk about emptiness, emptiness is explained or defined in terms of being a mere negation of true existence in things. And therefore,
true existence already.
Absence of true.
Independent existence.
Independent, no. And so, emptiness is defined in terms of being a mere negation of an independent existence in things. And so apart from that, you do not, in your perception of emptiness, there is no other object that comes into your perception, but that mere or the lack of the independent existence.
So, when we analyze the reality, then eventually, nothing exists by objectively. Once you understand that, then the mind which is focusing, nothing independently exists. That sort of moment, then nothing appears, just empty. So that now eliminates the basis of attachment or basis of grasping independent existence. Now, 각제, 동배, 동상, 매가, 직부터 루율도 쌓이잖아요. 그게 믹스에 차서 강에 매듭시죠. Then afterward, when you see these things, it appears independent existence. Then because of the previous experience, now nothing exists as appears. So now you see reduce the basis of destructive emotion. Now much loose, not solid. So that's the way. Then whole our daily life, daily sort of conduct carry with that understanding. And then still you can prove or increase those sort of strong feeling, like karuna, using reasons and the familiarization can increase. Then spontaneous or negative sort of emotion, then although still will come, but very weak. That experience goes years, decades, then real transformation in our emotion. These are not just empty words. I myself, although not very, very big sort of experience, but some experiences. So better than nothing. So it shows something reality. Really. Very useful. Very useful. So therefore now these days, I quite often use talking about emptiness like that. Like that. So it really, altruism, you see, accumulate virtues, right? But this understanding of emptiness directly sort of opposes this destructive emotion. The altruism not go that way, like that. No, this one. 자상가 동반이 무엇을도 각제 동점 그 동상실이도가. 다디 간로 되잖아. 즉 나디리 걸리걸리 반가워야지. 다디 참여중에도 론도단디 소야디. 그로 이로 이니 각제 동점 그 동상 대가라 그게 미게 차서 가야 매지 간대로 해니 대베이나 아니 지 가서 미시도 서고 디디고 정신기 반 의미도 차 애는 가서서 일로 거라ppe 세시도 된디가네 내대야지 되도이니 그 차단 계약 심으로 그 댄징로 샤야 그거 걸면서 샤로다 자 동이 무엇을 그 각자 동상계 다 가다 미게 타다 봐 식셔지 동상시 다 든든부디 어느 때는 매버지기다 계시고서 말이지 애는 동문이기 된디 댄신데 버는 중어래 스타 딜레버리네 안데 미드셔서 전에 매주시고 어느 매버려서는 말이지 여단데 된지 뭐요 거네 여번 많이 봐 탄이 원기 여버시리스 자상가 랑레 셴베 취직을 때네 랑은 뭐데 작별권에 여버리스 그래서 당 어떤 다 개체들이 동문이기 되면서 뭐 시험 통용 그래 때네 따와 세티 작별권에 여봐 세티 시부신 누구시 버리셔
And so, with regard to the nature of emptiness, what you actually perceive when you realize emptiness is the mere absence of any independent existence whatsoever. And so, within that perception, what happens is, as you keep experiencing it, more and more, then the different the diversity of objects kind of go away from your perception when you're within that the perception of emptiness. And so what that means is that emptiness, the nature of emptiness, is that mere lack of any independent existence. And so when through that, what happens is, you come to actually reject or be able to reject any kind of objective existence in things whatsoever. And so because of that, what it helps is it helps in reducing or combating or reducing your ignorance about the reality of things. And so through that, you are able to, through that kind of perception, you are able to stay on that object, the emptiness itself, single-pointedly. And because of that, what it does is it helps to actually shake the ground or the root of the objects onto which we cling through attachment or anger or hatred. And so they become baseless through the understanding, that insight into emptiness. And so when we say that, in the perception, when you perceive emptiness, there is this lack or the perception of an absence of independent existence. Does that mean that there is nothing when you nothing at all? That's not the case, and therefore, when we say things do not have any independent and objective existence, it doesn't mean that things do not exist at all. Rather, Master Nagarjuna later on says that the meaning of emptiness is actually dependence. And so we'll come across this verse later where he says what is dependent is said to be empty and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
And then, how having realized emptiness, when you come out of that experience, then of course, because of our habit, habitual pattern that we have to see or perceive things having some kind of objective independent existence, they will appear to have independent existence, whereas from your experience you can confirm that they do not have such a way of existence at all. But then, having said that, what you can actually say is that things are called exist by way of convention, by way of renown, and this is a very powerful kind of insight to say that things do have existence by way of renown or convention.
In you the double jari, observer yona, and observe the yadava. Read the Yankobe, Kenji Mibo never on Shamoch. Tanya you won't give the nigger Mingzam doesn't go and shy to Zane, Yanko Kenji Migo never the Shawam. Any children go Amidua. Nang Shiva de Nanzamato, turning when the Meba Nanshi, children dear, Nanzamato, turning when the Meba Shandu, any Mingzamgi. Zimbe Shiva Yuvananshi, Mingzamgi, Chidun, Yudavashan, Pendukua. Dajunzana, Sungziniga me, Mata Majabangane, Jitan Travakone, Sungziniga Yusidu. But when a Namju Reshatati, Shuja Reshawa.
And so when we say that, by saying that, it might sound like this is similar to saying what the Chittamatras say. Earlier we referred to the fact that God and Chittamatra, the observed object and the observing perception are simultaneously existing. And because of that, they say that things do not have any external existence at all. And so in the Madhyamaka system, we do not go to that kind of length, saying that although things do not have any existence apart from being merely labeled, nominal, still we do not have to go to the extent of saying that things do not have any external existence, because things exist by merely in name. by designation. And therefore, there's no need to reject externality of things. Nor, according to Chittamantras, what they say is that there's no external object at all, but then the mind or consciousness has some kind of essential existence. Whereas the Madhyamakas can say that both the observer, the mind or the consciousness, and the observed object are same in that they do not have any independent existence. So just as the internal experience... The main Madhyamaka system that we are following, according to them, they say that just as the internal experience, the observer, has no essential existence, likewise, things also, external things, do not have any essential existence. By that, they do not reject external existence either. And so what is said by this, the primary Madhyamaka system that we are following is that the assertion is that when we actually search for the things in themselves, there's nothing that we can find in them and in and of themselves. But then things, by that, they do not reject things have no existence, having any existence. But they say things exist by way of designation, by way of convention. And so this is something wonderful.
자상가 이게 돈이 거봐. 덴지기 미게 타다 시고 요 이르자네. 남릭베 송진이동 샤이온데 치든 송 타녀도야다. 캐고 인도자네. 다 치든 송 덴지 직전하다. 용실지 다스 용자지 용시. 이내 즈버 덴신 도되면도가 즈버 덴주 샤샤로다. 사 미르스다 시광송. 다 우모버 타녀도 랑전 셰겐기 타녀도 랑의 생이 쭉 단 담으로 원이지 뭐주베 아니 다와디기 그 타녀도 랑전 셰유르자네 타녀도 아니 다가다 단 담으로 뭐주고 타녀도 쭉 땡에기 상에 지금 타녀도 대바인데 봐 원이지 이해돼 봐. 다 든지 그 상무스 거인도잖아요. 안다 밑에 타다 식도금도 가. 자상가 단 담발 원이 주어 때니 대기에 차단의 기금 말이데 타녀도 원이지 이해버 따에 덴진 대장배 차단냠 차와지 그 용주도 다 밑에 타다 식인주잖아요. 차단지서 유명도가. 그래서 돈이 거봐. 자, 송샤다 되르셔.
And so, with regard to the purpose of emptiness, according to the Chittamantras, now they, of course, assert that things do not have any external existence whatsoever. By that, maybe they're able to do away with a certain amount of clinging to some kind of true existence in the external object. With regard to objects, by saying that things have no external existence, they may be able to do away with some kind degree of clinging to any kind of independent or true existence in things. But that doesn't actually, by that view, the Chittamatra view, you're not able to do away with clinging to the independent or objective existence, essential existence of the mind as such, because they still hold on to the thesis that the mind has its own essential existence. And so because of that, although they may be able to a certain degree reject any objective existence in things, objects, still they are not able to do away with the objectification as such, reification completely, because of holding on to the mind having some essence. And then with regard to within the Madhyamaka system of thought, there is this sub-school which actually assert that things should have some objective existence conventionally. And so because of that, although they do say that things have, in the ultimate sense, things have no independent or true existence, still because they say that conventionally things have some objective existence. Again, here they may be able to kind of deal with attachment, anger, and hatred to a certain degree when they actually come up with the idea or the understanding that things have no ultimate existence. But then, because they hold on to this, the conventionally, objective existence of things, I mean, they still are not able to do away with objectification in things. And whereas the Madhyamakas, which actually assert that there's nothing whatsoever in the observed objects as well as internal experiences that we can say that there is some essence in them. Because there is neither the objects nor the experience, the cognition have any kind of objective or independent existence at all whatsoever. Therefore, this system of Madhyamaka is able to do away with all kinds of objectification in things.
Oh yeah. That inda. Don't you turn them Madove, Tijitas never ends. That don't want you to Shevala, Sanja Namji Church, but Tabanila Yanda Den. That Nungzu the Nizu Ni Chene. That because of the Sheko race. That Dambanis at the Kareslamna. Chirama deve Damanita way Mari, Dodiven deve Damanita way Mari, and the Samzame, Namda Lamji Mibo Todu, and Tondo Dambas Shetia, that the day Mendaji, that day machine Dawudine, Dos Mendaji, that the day Damani Kareslamna, Jidin Guzu Dambata Tambet Dambos. Jidin Guzu Dambasa Jidenam, Jigda, Tanyedo, any Tawa. 타녀도 자고 된다라 아니 타녀에 사마신 있잖아 메뉴바 아니 전담 주식 있잖아 메뉴바 된지지를 타녀도 이것이 봐 된전도 마다 맞으면 안에 아니 된지고 좋아요도 버디 군주도 받쳐 다 담배 된게 다 먹었어야지 따지 쟤네 아니 인루 봐 니야디 아니 단단한 맞지 어디셔 다다 마다 맞으면다 롱을 니든지 다시 제배거네 니든지 다 제대로 담반이 있어야 돼 아니 고불루기 정주심들 나라 담반이 있어야 돼 아니 모질로 도가 다 되지 있으니 송여리 배나 제바도 메다고는 시 도가 다대 모직지 송샤 나디 던지샤 던지지 말이 제대로 간다 담반이기 남이 나버를 메시부터 산제 담반이 삼유딩이 남마시스 제대로 담반이기 아니 남이디 마시나 아니 삼유딩 시도 말이스 저 타냐를 맞은 걸 담배 되는 도민이 담배 되는 마도 걸 양년되고 토민줄 쓰니 다 간다 있는 담배니기 남이 마시나 아니 군소 담배 담배 아니 람 창주 습니다 지 닝지다 어디서 되디 아니 타냐도 가시 우리 그게 상해가 남샤 지심을 좀 마시나 창조성도 주념인데 용도해요 말에 대단하야 털도 있네 인루디 미게 타다 식토야 지기 타녀도 여랑제 캐괴 아니 동문이기다 나와 된지지 매나야 아니 가시 우리 예식소 아니 저도야 매버치니 어딘지 진짜 인도잖아요 아니 냥했는데 뭐 도토 말이스 어디서 text. No.
So we are on verse number 8. So, which says the Buddha's teaching of the Dharma is based on two truths: a truth of worldly convention and an ultimate truth. And so, with regard to the two truths, here the two truths are not presented from the point of view of the Vaibhashikas, nor the Sautantikas or Chittamatra. According to Chittamatra, they say that they have their own definitions of conventional and ultimate truths. And so with regard to the ultimate truth, here in this system, it is not the same as what the Chittamatras would say, where Chittamatras say that an ultimate object, observed object of a pure path is the ultimate ultimate reality or truth. Although it may be similar, but it's not exactly the same as what the Madhyamakas would say. And so for the Madhyamakas, that regarding the two truths, the conventional truth first is defined as the truth which can be defined in terms of things without doing any kind of analysis or critical analysis, investigation into the nature of things. We can actually accept on the basis of the things being renowned, that they are known to exist, and that also secondly, there are these three criteria. And so first is for conventional truth, it must be renowned or known, and then in worldly convention, and then that it is not invalidated by other worldly conventions, and then also it must not be invalidated by critical analysis into the ultimate nature of things as well. And so without doing any kind of analysis into the reality of the nature of things, when we when we accept things in the convention, then they are said to be conventional existence. And whereas the ultimate reality or truth is that object which is actually we are able to find through penetrative investigation into the nature of things. And so what we find is this ultimate truth, the mere absence of any independent existence. And therefore, with regard to these two truths, in Master Nagarjuna's explanation of bodhicitta, he says the two truths are essentially one. It's like we say that nature, that in their nature they are one, but then they are distinct conceptually. And so in this way, the true truths are understood from in this system. And so the next Master Nagarjuna goes on to say in this text, in verse number 9, those who do not understand the distinction between the two truths do not understand the Buddha's profound teaching. And then, without depending on the conventional truth, the meaning of ultimate cannot be taught. And so, without understanding the two truths, in other words, what happens is, if you do not understand the conventional truth, then you will not be able to go about with the practice of bodhicitta, for example, the altruistic practices of altruism and so forth. And without actually understanding how things really are, in other words, without understanding that things do not have any cannot have any objectification whatsoever, you cannot actually cultivate the wisdom. The accumulation of wisdom cannot be done, and therefore it says, without understanding the meaning of the ultimate nirvana is not achieved.
Oh yeah. That the name. Don't want you go quality 타니 세워지 고기야리 남주 십시 차외관에 아니 남이 제시버지 과르마다 그게 가서 잡아 심무탄에 삼다시 마도 라라야면도가 이제 동반이를 따니나 실업 중은 폰주스 폰체스 그게 각종 고버디 탈체나 체들어야 각종 고버디 야 가서 그게 락바지간에 침배이나 아니 denzi chamu di la denge, denzi chamu la never demu sochi tangdal longdea, 어제는 저기 가래. 아도 우모바 랑을 대베이나 타녀도 장지 생애기 우모바다 아니 섬섬바 천도도 주제 당dal long데 그래. 다양 텐주에 타녀도에 장제 아니 고베 따와라 매바이어체 매바이어니 따와디 캬라 아니 그게 타녀도 때는 딱sam기 아니 땡중 참고 용도는 예버지 뭐주나 찾아들어야게 내가요리 어디 들으셔 서진이 인도 동문이라 되는 시로 중의 폰체스 지도주로 송녀다 릉안이와 조신스 진짜 인도산에 산지심된데 뭐서 산계니 아니 리시 추기 콜로 미고라 아니 서시 저저에서 두마체 두즈대비 추시 코연이 술을 땡겨 코 메뉴에 미만 나냐나도 내버자 하시니 된지 숨비 루지야리
And so now when it comes to understanding and gaining insight into emptiness correctly and precisely, what we need to actually be able to do is to be able to do away with both the extreme of nihilism and eternalism or permanence. And so for that to be able to, for us to be able to gain that kind of insight, we need a very fine, incisive kind of wisdom, insight to check into the reality of things, how they exist. It must be done in a very precise manner. Otherwise, what will happen is you would either fall into the extreme of nihilism. If you actually negate too much of more than what you need to negate, and on the other hand, if you are not exhaustive in your analysis to do away, to be able to do away with, but rather have a very kind of a coarse level of understanding of emptiness, and then you might fall into the extreme of eternalism as well. And so because of that, you need to have a very, very fine, incisive kind of wisdom or intelligence to look into the nature of things precisely, to avoid these falling into these two extremes. Otherwise, what happens is when the Vaibhashikas, Sautantikas, Chittamatra, and even within the Madhyamaka, there are those who assert some objective existence in things. Because of not being able to get right with regard to what you are negating and what you are accepting. In other words, not being able to deal with doing away with the two extremes correctly, they either fall into extreme of nihilism or eternalism. And then within the Madhyamakas, who still accept that things do not have any objective existence, if they are not also careful in understanding what is meant by dependent origination and its subtle called meaning, they also could fall into the extreme, the two extremes. And therefore, in the text it says, by a misperception of emptiness, a person of little intelligence is destroyed, like a snake incorrectly seized, or like a spell incorrectly cast. And knowing that the dharma is deep and difficult for simpletons to understand the Buddha's mind, despite of being able to teach it. And so here there is this story that the Buddha, after gaining enlightenment, after attaining enlightenment, was actually said to have said that that he has found this peaceful, the profound, peaceful, and unfabricated, unfabricated reality, which is an uncompounded and clear light, or luminous. He says that he found this nectar-like experience or reality, and which, if he taught to others, would not be understood by them. And therefore, he said, I will not go forth with teaching this to others, but remain in the forest.
First Dharma wheel, Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths, the third Noble Truth, he sort of hinted the deeper level of reality and the possibility to understand that. And that understanding can eliminate destructive emotion. So he actually sort of hinted, but not elaborate, was not explained elaborately. Then second Dharma wheel, he elaborately explained about shunyata. The third Dharma wheel, the consciousness, the very nature of consciousness. So we usually call clear light of object, clear light of subject. Mind. So second Dharma wheel, clear light of object. Third Dharma wheel, clear light of subjective mind. Subjective mind, like that. So then this made basis of tantric teaching. Tantric teaching, Buddhist tantric teaching, was very much involved about a clear light of consciousness, like that. So, you see, I think a few years, Buddha didn't sort of explain about emptiness. I think he really taught his sorority follower, like Lubjin Sochi.
No, so he led the disciples through the stages, like going through the stages in schools.
Mm-hmm. So the basis of all Buddhist teaching is the concept of Four Noble Truths. That, was based on the concept of law of causality, Patita Samupanda, at the grosser level of the meaning of Patita Samupanda is law of causality. Because of that, then the second Dhamma wheel, then he used that as a sort of reason. Because the law of causality, result depend on cause. Similarly, cause depend on result. So all these interdependent. So no absolute existence like that. So that Patita Samupanda, two levels of understanding.
So within the understanding of the dependent origination, we have this law of causality, understanding of dependence in terms of law of causality, and then the understanding of dependence in terms of how things are designated.
다들만 견도 타와 요니 동로 타와 마인베스 큐는 동리 봉제바 강등가라 메테도스 강로 동반이 저저 좀 강로 동님으로 저저 rum인교스 큐는 랑게 견는 나라 용수 교제바 따로 거 버시도 따니 저 교버신스 전에다 예 에네 다 우모베 루주부다 룩다 시진근도이 에네 뭐데 동리기다 좀버티 땡중부터 송시레스 에네 전제기다 탄예도요 장제 매번 되베 전제기 따와들이야 견대야디 에네 뭐네잖아 장신이 두번 되나 견제기 남샤 샤신 말이 에네 교워치니 Sometimes I jokingly telling, because it is something useful to wake up. Some audience go like that. Phew. 자자가 이니 뭐보남 별한 리뷰치에 뭐니지 두야나 코랑 그 랑도지 죽기 하래 랑도지 두나 샤나 되고 말해 샤나 되면은 줄 되고 말해 세상 어떤 디샴데 개등면으로 정신에 여버져서 따잖아 대단한 거 보고 뒤집어 버려 켜다오 센다 파 타월로네 또와 세상하다 아니 저런 게다 윤재기 남샤 아니 원이 주버지 되베이나 아니 때네 주버지 되신 말이지 때네 주버 캐마나 윤재기 땡지고 말이지 저다 봐도 슬로도 타발로 수견 펜션이 봐도 어디 송샤 다디주도 반제 대대는 뭐는 규정을 켜다오스 저부터는 균이다 제법보다 제자 자 깨워다는 가보다 저불라야 너버 제서도 되게 원이 주번 되나 샤나 락말레고 고리 샤나 락말레베이나 에네 자질에서 직시로 되거든 유전적으로 직시로 되거 에네 깨워던 가보사지 되는 용도 말에 스타디 소샤
So we are on verse number 13 through to 14, 15. And through to 17. And so what these teach is that from according to the Madhyamaka philosophy or system of the Master Nagarjuna, and it is said that the meaning of emptiness, according to the sutras, the Prajnaparamita sutras, the Perfection of Wisdom sutras, is that of dependent origination. Whereas that is the meaning, that dependent origination and emptiness and dependent origin means dependent origination. Those philosophical schools which actually assert that things must have some kind of a defining, self-defining characteristic in existence are actually, Master Nagarjuna is saying that for them, if they actually asserted that things have some defining characteristic, self-defining characteristic, or some independent existence, then they would not be able to talk about or explain cause and effect as such. And so, why? Because if, for example, an effect or a result were to have any kind of independent or objective existence, that means that that effect actually arises of its own accord, which means it doesn't rely on or depend on any other factor. And because of that, since it doesn't rely or depend on any other factor, therefore it cannot be reliant on a cause as well. And so they cannot, for that reason, they won't be able to assert causality. And then verse number 14 says, so verse number 13 says, since the absurd consequences you adduce are not relevant to emptiness, your rejection of emptiness is not relevant to me. Because the Madhyamakas assert that things have no independent or no absolute existence whatsoever, and therefore this kind of criticism doesn't apply to them. And then verse number 14, for him to whom emptiness makes sense, everything makes sense. For him to whom emptiness does not make sense, nothing makes sense. And when you foist on us all of your errors, you are like a man who has mounted his horse and has forgotten that very horse. And then if you regard all things as existing in virtue of their essence, then you will regard all things as being without causes and conditions. And so because of that, if the other philosophical schools assert, as they do, things having some objective independent existence, then they would not be able to explain cause and effect, and also they would not be able to assert the action, the agent, and the acted upon object, and so forth.
Yes.
And then verse number 17 says, if effects and causes, and so this is what Master Nagarjuna argues, effects and causes, and an agent, instrument, and action, and arising and ceasing, and the effects will be undermined.
자자가 아다 quantum physics tension 주어지 야마리스 샤인도자네 캐디 드부데 tension 예바 있나 아니 규다 저같이 그래 이 저들이도 와 다야 다한다 quantum physics 타는 샤인도 규인의 tension 주요 말이 드부데 tension 주요 말이 다원은 드부 줄을 떠버지기 저하지 도와 다들 그럴 수 있는 것이다 왜 있나 때 저들이기도 와
So according to quantum physics, nothing exists objectively. So because of that, if effects were to have some kind of absolute or objective existence, then the question would be, what does a cause actually do to that effect? And so this question will arise if effects were to have any objective existence. And then also with regard to cause and effect, if they have any kind of objective existence, then how does an effect actually depend on a cause as well?
So that umbe ko rangen meba shan tebe indusane gu debulia pandoyaji yungdoa 다 진짜 인도 대부도 줄을 떼버려 다 주야지 대부를 떼내면도 민도가 주변 내가를 대부 야말 봐 중주 대부를 떼내 줄 샤버 봐 저상은 줄 주어지 대부를 떼도 대부 관계 줄 주버려 봐 서편주 떼내 딱섬 즉 샤베이나 디디 샤트야지 그 주디에 뭐요거는 주어 대부디에 뭐요거는 주어지 삼다베이나 디디 조마데지 다 렌저 삼집이 개발이 선에 위 무슨 뜻이 자신도 그러다 신 도스녀도 와
So, from the Madhyamaka point of view, since things are dependent, therefore we can talk about, we can explain how causes and conditions actually give rise to the results or the effects, how the effect is actually brought about or affected by the cause as well, because the effect is related or dependent on the cause. And so in the same manner, because we have an effect that will arise, although it's not yet there during the when the cause is there. Still, because there's going to be an effect that will arise from a cause, we can say this is a cause of that object or that fruit. And therefore, we can say that a cause is also related or dependent or contingent upon that effect as well, although the effect has not yet arisen at the time of the cause. And therefore, the fact that we can say something is a cause is because of the effect that it gives rise to. And because of this dependence, understanding of how things are related, how things are dependent, and how things are merely designated, we can actually posit because of this understanding or of how things are dependently arisen, interdependent as well. Otherwise, if things were to have any kind of objective or essential existence of it and in and of itself, then you cannot actually talk about dependence as such. Dependence doesn't really, have any role there, and therefore, you would sometimes, if when you have no explanation, perhaps you could say, oh, everything is because karma is something inconceivable. Just find an excuse like that.
That is 제법보다 제더 찼어. 제법보. 자외유 제바 숨도가 자제 레숨스. 레숨 자외유제. 되는 제법보제 자와제. 다 맞아 로리야. 다 치기마 죄인도 자네. 가다 치기다. 다도 세원 주고 살다. 내가 좀 쉬우시도. 다도 세원 주고 쓰자네. 다도 또배 차시해봐 세니. 그걸 전다 찍해주 캐버를 찍 쏘는 거야. 무슨 들어주고 싶다도 그걸 커도 될 가려 해봐디 차선시 통되겠지. 그래서 똑바로 내주자네. 엔디나네 차시 차 찍기야. 가서 독주로 때문에 셴파 세지. 로데도 와. 자자가 다한테 드라이즈 뭐 조일잖아요. 다데 제수 제 똑바로 시행주잖아요. 제법보 자와 제바스. 자와서 자유 유리제. 자, 자질해서. 따지마 자질해서 근데스레스 라베이나. 자와디 변 자외 유디 자와를 때네 자와다 제법보를 때네 자외 유샤. 제법보 모르고도 자외 유매 되게. 봐. 다 자외 유매네 야 제발 죽스지 매매 있잖아요. 야고 제발이 샤마시면서 그렇지. 또 여러 주도 어디에 자질해서 마다 마셔는 안에 자질해서 샤도 그러고. 따시잖아. 제법을 두버려. 자원을 두버려. 아니 제법보다 만지래. 제발. 나 제법 레서 올라서 제발 집에 자원 매딩해. 네. 제외 유 모두 봐. 제법이 매딩해. 근데 일이 쉽지도 와. 민주왕기 예배지 샤나 디샤도야. 저그 된지 뭐는 두고 지기 삼담이나 맞대 쉽지도 어디. 대신도 깨워다는 가봐당스. 다 깬가. 아니 깨워다 가봤어야 돼. 깨 차와도 내버인데 깨워. 또 깨워. 봐. 각배 자와도 내배 전에 gabas. 다 제부 gabala ngon도 쳐 말이 제부 깨월로 ngon도 쳐 봐. 중 gabala ngon도 쳐 봐. 디니 뒤냐 뭐지. 자원이 뒤냐 뭐지. 자원이 뒤냐. 자와의 관계 자와 인규 뭐부터 뒤미냐 봐. 저도 와. 저 누신다 그 마다 마시면 안에 샤도야도 와. 전혀 뭐고는 두고 하지 샤베이나 맞아 샤도 와. 이 지 준지 뒤념에 서로 저러시도 지도 와. 지금 다가는 신기 깨지기 직바스럽도 다 너드베 연식이 다 미다고 참무도 시행이 되잖아요. 깨워던 가보 뒤념. 화두가로를 참아지도 와. 된지 면에 샤오주는 맞아요. 다 민국왕의 여배지 삼당방이나 깨버도 뒤념도 가고 깨가 뒤념. 진지 뒤념. 지당은 줄로리하고 유지 면에 지금 여배지 삼수 당연히 되잖아요. 아니 깨가 뒤념도 용토고 말을 써버리고 깨스도 주어로 가스도 매서로. 그러다 미다고 참여관을 시행되잖아요. 깨와던 가보 뒤념 시행도. 무슨 도저히 연신은 시행이야. 다들 된지 면에 주고 지금 삼당이나 된지 면에 주고 시사에 삼당이나 맞대도 같죠.
So we're on verse number 17. The second line says an agent, an instrument, and action, or an acted upon, an object acted upon. So with regard to these three, now here we need to actually be able to make distinction between how our conceptual thoughts engage with objects and how our direct perceptions also engage with objects as well. With regard to the conceptual thought and then also the verbal expressions, what happens is when we actually think about something or express something with the words, the words that we use and the conceptual thought that follows it actually, is selective about what it's engaging with. And whereas, and therefore, when you are thinking about one thing, that object will appear to the conceptual thought, and similarly, the expression, the verbal expression also indicates that and not others. And so in this way, there is this principle of the application of the principle of Lama. So there is this application of what is known as the principle of exclusion. So whatever is not A is excluded from that conception, and similarly by that verbal expression. When you say something A or B, when that actually excludes other things from what you are saying or what you are conceptualizing. And so in this way, the conceptions and verbal expressions engage with objects through this principle of exclusion. Whereas the perception, the direct perception, like our visual cognition, they do not have to go through that kind of exclusion as such. Whatever just presents themselves is perceived by that cognition. And so that is called engagement through affirmation. And so this making distinction between these is quite crucial in understanding the ideas or the concepts that we are dealing with. And so now with regards to the action, the agent, and then the object acted upon, what we can see is that you cannot talk about an action without there being some object onto which the action is being performed. Nor can you say there is an object onto which the action is being performed without the action as such. And therefore, what you can see is these are the agent, the action, and then the object acted upon. They can be understood to be interdependent. So without one, you cannot have the other. And so and similarly, here, when you do not do any kind of analysis into how the action happening and so forth, of course, there seems to be an action going on or the object of action, being there and an agent performing that action and so forth. But then when you actually do more close investigation into these, what you find is that there's nothing that you can actually pinpoint as being the actor or the agent, action or the object acted upon and so forth. And so, and also, when you do this kind of analysis into these three things, the agent, the action, and the object acted upon, when you investigate into it and analyze them, it's difficult to actually come up with which comes first. Whereas if you were to, this is, of course, when you posit things as being merely dependent and designated, you see how things are interdependent. Whereas if you were to posit something having some kind of objective, existence in and of itself, then there are lots of, complications. You won't be able to explain things correctly and precisely. And therefore, what we need to understand is that things should be understood to be existing merely by way of designation, merely in name. And so, similarly here in the text it says, and arising and ceasing, and the effects will be undermined. And so when we talk about arising and ceasing, they have to do also with how a certain effect arises in dependence on its cause. And so when we say an effect is arising, and what that also implicates or shows is that the cause is about to cease. And so the process of cessation of the cause and the process of arisal of the effect are simultaneous. Although these two things, the effect itself and the cause, are not simultaneous as such, but that the process of these two arising and of the effect and the cessation of the cause happens simultaneously. And so, but then this can be posited when you say things are nominally existing. Although if you still again were to assert that these two...
Now here I think impermanence is two levels, grosser level. That's, as we know, is a sunset, then sunrise.
No.
You see this. You see the grosser level of impermanence. Now, the sunrise, sunset, possible because momentarily changing. Without that, it is impossible. Sunrise, sunset. So that happened. Even within second, changing. So that level of the changing we call subtle level of impermanence. So momentarily changing. So grosser level of the change or impermanence is due to some other factor, third factor. But momentarily changing, there is no third factor, but the factor which produces itself, you see, creates that nature, momentarily changing. There's subtle level of kasoda impermanence. So now here, that's the go kasa. Gyawatan jibu tuinimus no kudushto.
Yes.
Gyawatan gawa tuinimus no.
And so within that understanding, what do you think about when we say that the arisal and cessation of something is simultaneous? What does that cause you to think? And So, of course, when we say arising and cessation of things are simultaneous, it doesn't sound like true. But because when we think about arisal of something, it's like coming up of something, becoming of something, whereas cessation means it's going out of existence. So how can they be simultaneous? I mean, this kind of question arises in us. But then, if you look closely, the fact that something arises is because of a cause or a condition, and that condition is about to cease when the effect is about to arise, and therefore you can have the cessation and the arisal simultaneous. This is what the Swatantika philosophy, as well as those philosophical schools above it, also assert. But with regard to the subtle impermanence, that the arisal and cessation of something is called simultaneous. So it can be posited from the point of view of being merely designated. And so, with regard to impermanence here, the grosser level of impermanence is that which actually is defined as the cessation of something due to a third factor, causing it to cease. Whereas the subtle impermanence is the fact that something is brought about by a cause also causes its cessation. So that cessation doesn't depend or rely on a certain third factor for it to happen.
Now about 20 minutes there, so I would like to take some questions. Some question and answer. Any question?
There are microphones, and if His Holiness will point out who should ask the question.
There? I think not necessary to stand. Sit. I think sit.
I feel better this way.
Okay. No. Unless you want to show your face to other people. Sorry.
I was stretching my legs.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yes.
As much as we talk about education system, and the Indian education system is based on the Vedanta education system.
Vedanta, no.
Which is based on awareness and the self. And we are talking about awareness that we are all moving towards the end, ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we talk of a philosophy of education which is 1,000, 2,000 years backwards. As much as we are moving forward, are we aware of the world we are going to enter, or we are entering now such a turmoil world? And how do we deal with such conflicts? Nobody talks about that.
Kashusa.
There's a lot of turmoil in the Middle East and a lot of killings happening which we have not heard of or seen or even talked of. And that is the sort of world we are entering, this turmoil, everybody, everywhere, except within us sitting here maybe. But that's the world we are living in.
We have an opportunity. If we have opportunity comes, then we may also involve with that kind of work.
Yeah. But
I think, as I mentioned earlier, the India's tradition not only sort of educates the because of size or measures about because of the material thing, external thing, but also you see a lot of discussion in ancient time, pena the kaso pena sinju tu tumju sa today shashik tu.
No. So in classical, Indian philosophy and scriptures, just as His Holiness mentioned, there is a lot of discussion about how our mind, at the conceptual level as well as direct perceptual level, engage with objects. We talked about, applying the principle of exclusion or not. So there are lots of discussions about these things.
So very rich. But then you see your point, that I feel the existing education system very much oriented about material value. So not much talking about inner value. So then the whole society, materialistic life, materialistic sort of way of life, and materialistic culture. So then the concept of strong feeling of I and we, then these problems. And I think, and also is it due to the not sufficient sort of contact with other people, other culture. I usually say telling, I notice Indian Muslim and Indonesian Muslim, Malaysian Muslim, follower of same Quran. But because of the circumstances, you see, Indian Muslim, much more open-minded. Because, you see, from their childhood, they already sort of see or know there are different traditions. And Malaysia also, there are a large number of Chinese, they are Buddhist, and also some Hindus. And Indonesia also, you see, large number of Chinese, or some Chinese community, and then Hindus, like that. Whereas the Arab countries, only Muslim. I think, although I think, yes, I think Arab, some cases, I think the Indian also is there, but I think too general. I often used to telling when I met Indian community, some people from Indian community in England, in America, in New York, I suggested, you Indian community, you see, should be active, you see, regarding India's 1,000-year-old religious tolerance and religious harmony, and India's 1,000-year-old secular ethics, these things. So eventually, where is the Chinese community, wherever they have a bigger number, they create Chinatown. Why not India town? We should create India town. You see, where you see some festivals and some discussions about ahimsa, secular ethics, like that. So I think existing education system, the modern education system, I think very much lacking about education in a value. I think that's, I feel, I think some causes, right?
No.
Due to lack of that, I think some problems, I feel. I noticed the Jordanian school, that's the student, few occasions I met in Jordan, I have been a few occasions. One occasion I met some Jordanian school children. They are sort of the way of they asking questions, very similar. That's outside the world sort of students thinking. So their country, comparatively, is more open-minded. Whereas some Muslim country, where not much contact with outside world or other traditions, they're more difficult.
Is it about power that we are not allowed to think beyond?
Or that also, I think, some extent, perhaps some extent. Sometimes religious reasons, some kind of totalitarian concept. Some politically totalitarian, closed society. So these, I think, eventually, I think will change. But somehow, I think education, I feel very important. So as I mentioned before, the Indian education, I think can sort of say, can create some kind of new patterns already, new pattern of education about external values and internal values without talking religion. I think India, only India, you see, can do that, secular way. Some other countries, I think the very word secular, some I find a little bit sort of as a distance, like that. The India, no problem. That's my view. Then your question, sort of looking at moving forward. Eventually, sun also disappear. Oh no. Huh? I mean, sun, I think 5 billions years old. Right. I think 5 billion, isn't it? And our solar system, you see, started about, I think, about now 4 billions. Then another a few billions will disappear. Oh, you are not agree?
We are assuming it will disappear.
Kasa?
먼저 인제 중국에 3개월 했어.
Ah.
먼저 인제 중국에 3개월 했어. assumes it.
Some other galaxies, you see, now disappearing. Some are growing. That's a fact. With help of instrument, we can see.
They were there, awareness was not there in us.
Buddhist kasa, Buddhist cosmology, and whole galaxies, you see, come, disappear. So from these ancient Indian cosmology, there should be several big bangs. Okay, not one big bang. No need any worry. That just go that way. At least within this century, the world will not disappear. So you should be happy. And then you see, moving forward, that is more religious concept. Moksha. Both Hindus and Buddhists, you see, we have the concept of moksha. That's individual sort of business. Individual, through practice, moving towards moksha. Salvation. Next question? Oh, there's one. With beer.
Your Holiness, thank you very much for spreading so much goodness in the world. We are grateful, for your contribution. My question is, Buddhist thinking has a significant opportunity to make an impact in the world that we are dealing with today. And why can't you, under your leadership, take a more bolder action, which will show, more people a more determined way forward? A lot of us feel that whilst you making great contribution, if you could get the Chinese friends a little back off you, that will help create more space for impact. And your government, while in exile, is in India. You're part of India in a way. You ate Indian dal and chawal. I remember you telling us that story. And therefore, there's an opportunity for you to exploit your sovereign status as a country in exile to its fullest. Perhaps launch a virtual Buddhist community in the world where not only Tibetans can be members, but everybody can be members in context of the virtual world we're dealing with. Launch an independent currency based on truth, 100% reserves by gold, and let's get on with the task of becoming members of your community and leading the way for the world to be able to follow. What do you think about that?
Something
Thank you. You express your own feeling. Thank you. But, you know, I have 3 commitments. Number 1, I consider one of 7 billion human beings. And then, reality, we are social animal. Individual future depend on rest of the society, rest of the community. Then today's situation, environment problem, global economy, and global warming. Now time come, we have to think about humanity rather than my country, their country. Entire 7 billion human being. Basically, same human being, same emotion, same desire to achieve happy life. And everyone has the right to achieve happy life. So it's too much sort of concentrate your own small community, then sometimes create problem. If you think humanity, then hardly no basis of quarrel. The other human being, even those Muslim terrorists, I usually call brothers, sisters. Basically, same human being. They also have the seed of compassion because their mother sort of give immense sort of affection. So that cultivate also seed. So all 7 human beings have the same potential if we properly nurture that and educate. That's my view, my number 1 commitment. Here, if we talk these inner value according religious basis, then out of 7 billion, 1 over billion human being, a non-believer. We must include these people. Still human being, part of our community. So the only sort of realistic approach is India's tradition, secular way. India's understanding, as I mentioned, respect all religion, then also is respect a non-believer. That's so wonderful. That's very relevant to today's world. So I approach, not just me, many my friends, many scientists, many educationists, say we are sort of making sort of common effort to promote the secular education, through secular education to promote human inner value. That's human love. That's number 1 commitment. Number 2 commitment. And then here also you see we have to think about the importance of global warming. Now with Dharamsala also now weather condition now much changed because of global warming. And then nature disasters also, you see. I think because of typhoon or these things, I think we Dharamsala quite safe. No danger, any because of sea kasa, cyclones and these things. No danger. And Madras and these, Bombay, I think I think some occasion, I think may have this problem. So these things, now we have to think very seriously. And whatever we, you see, those human activities which causing global warming, we have to pay serious attention. And deforestation, these things. Although you see no direct sort of relevant, but since many years, I have some sort of desire. The Sahara Desert, you see, should transform Greenland, you see, through use seawater, through
desalination.
I don't know that word. Modern technology have that sort of ability. Seawater transform sweet water. So recently I saw one also the report. One African country, they plenty of sun. So they utilize solar power. Each family now use electricity. Not big hydro or these things, but solar. So there is sort of possibility. The Sahara, plenty of sun. So you see, transform this area for Kasachuti, produce solar energy. That energy should not use for industry or these things, but use for some big some sort of factory to transform seawater to sweet water. Then I think a large area can be eventually Greenland. In Australia, see, sometime since last few occasions, I express Australia all side sea. So there are sort of the human being sort of settlement there. So each year, see, from all sides, you see, make sort of plan 200 sort of kilometers inward, try to plantation and irrigation, go like that, all sides. Then eventually Australia can be Greenland. And then then Africa, Sahara. I think instead of spend more money for weapon, I think spend like that. You see, this is the question of future humanity. Our population today, when I first come to India, 6 billion, now 7 billion. According to some experts, they say end of this century, population will reach 10 billion. So how to reduce that? Killing? Impossible. Total sort of birth control. Also, I don't know whether good or bad. I don't know. So, till we reach now no method, then I think birth control is very important. Still, you see, without birth control, you see, some sort of development, use these desert, I think worthwhile. That's, so firstly, as I mentioned earlier, it's a different country where big Indian community, you should be active to promote secular ethics as a part of Indian culture. So when I think people eventually, you see, get the impression, wherever they heard Indian town, there you can learn secular ethics. That I think quite practical. You can do. you need some sort of, some vision, some effort, like that. Then some Arab countries, wherever you see Indian community there, you can do more things, these things. So then number 2, my commitment is I am Buddhist monk, or I am Buddhist monk. So on that level, my responsibility is to promote religious harmony. That also India's tradition. So I fully committed. I think in this respect, I made some contribution. Now I have many friends among the Christians, among the Muslims, among the Jews. This morning, one my friend, one Jew here, now no longer. Okay, so I have, you see, many friends and many different traditions. So I really, in the philosophical field, there's big differences. So I cannot argue. But that is personal matter. After all, religion is personal matter. So I usually consider all major religions have 3 aspects. Number 1 aspect is religion. That means all major traditions carry teaching of love, whether Muslim, whether Christian, whether Jews, or different Hindus, and Jains, and Buddhists, all, you see, main practice is practice of love. That aspect, religious aspect, all same teaching. Then philosophical aspect, there's differences. Even within the Buddhist tradition, as I mentioned earlier, you see, there are differences. It is necessary in order to bring firm conviction for your own sort of practice of love or compassion. You see, you need different philosophical backing. So the philosophy, the concept of creator is very, very powerful. We all created by God, by creator. So creator himself, everybody consider infinite love. So we, no matter how bad, we created by such sort of God, infinite love. So we all have sort of, sparks of that kind of God, almost like our father. So children carry father's gene, something like that. So that kind of concept, very, very powerful. And simpler. Buddhist concept, a lot of thinking, not necessarily this single-pointed faith towards God, towards Creator, and follow God's path. That's practice of love. Wonderful. So promotion of religious harmony. Then third level, I am Tibetan. The Tibetan people, I think, trusted me and expect much. So I have a responsibility. But as far as political responsibility is concerned, I totally retired. Not only myself retired, but almost 4th century old tradition. Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temporal and spirituality. Now that formally, voluntarily, happily ended. Since 2011, I totally retired now. So your question, some part political. So please ask our political leaders, not to me. My main sort of now responsibility regarding Tibet is preservation of Tibetan rich culture, rich knowledge about Buddha Dharma, particularly Nalanda tradition. You see, our guru, the Indians, traditionally, ancient Indians were our guru. So we preserved all these knowledge. So if we lost, then these ancient Indian knowledge now completely lost. So my Guruji, not much pay attention. You are talking more about money, about power, about political parties. So I think really Tibetan sort of Buddhist tradition, we pay much attention, rigorous study, and the root text learn by heart, memorize, then each word explain, and then through debate, you see, because of our understanding becomes something very precise, like that. So now I think actually now today Tibetan language is the best language to explain thoroughly about Nalanda philosophy. Isn't it? You know, you're a great scholar. You know. So
to bring it back to your Guru's modern Indian, we have to translate it all into English.
Kaza. Yes.
To bring it back to them, it has to be all translated into English, at least.
Right, very good, very good.
Then,
Very
but
active.
Tibetan will still be best.
Oh.
Tibetan is best, but then we have to make English better.
Oh, okay.
So it meets the excellent Tibetan.
But English language, you see, each scholar, you see, use their own way, use certain sort of vocabulary. So more translation by different translator, more confusion. In the Sanskrit word, something very fixed. Similarly, Tibetan word, very much fixed. So you see, there's no danger of confusion. Scholars, including Thurman, you see, a top scholar, but use their own, his own sort of
Style.
Suitable word like that. Good. Then next question. Last question. Yes.
Your Holiness, you mentioned about the Big Bang, and as you know, modern physics says that the universe originated in the Big Bang. So I was wondering how the laws of causality and karma apply to the origin of the universe. What was the cause of the origin of the universe in Nagarjuna's thinking and in Buddhist thinking?
Buddhist thinking, no beginning. Big Bang, one occasion, you say after in a certain area, in this infinite space, some area, you see the whole sort of galaxies disappear. Then the waves start a Big Bang. Then remain a few billions of years, then gradually disappear. So, Kasate, Jiksan Kasa, Jikwe Kyaba, Neve Kyaba, any Kare, Jiktasa, Jumya, Kasa, Chakwe Kyaba. That looks not TikTok.
Yes. So the whole universe goes through the process of becoming or originating, and then remaining for some time, and finally going into destruction. So this is the cycle that the universe goes through.
So you see, if you accept some scientists, usually raise the question. What was the causes of this Big Bang take place? There is tremendous sort of energy. From where that energy come? There are some substance. That substance come from where? So previous world. So grosser level disappear, but subtle level, space particle still there. No beginning, no end. So these space particle, due to certain factor, including, we believe, including karma, then you see the certain form started. then that produces energy. Then explosion takes place, like that. So no beginning, no end. This was my physical, the original sort of substance of this physical, no beginning. So that's law of causality, causes, substantial causes, and causa.
Cooperative conditions.
Conditions, causa.
Cooperative conditions.
Cooperative sort of conditions, sort of the causes. So it's like, like this table. You see, a substantial cause is wood. The wood is causes, substantial cause, previous tree, like that. And originally, when the Big Bang take place, the cause, substantial cause of very subtle level of particle already there. So the particle which can be wooden, because wood, like stone or some other water or these things. So substantial cause must be the same nature. The cooperative cause, some other element. The substantial cause of water, not grosser level, but very subtle level, some sort of, because of some potential, the liquid nature, like that. So that's substantial cause. So that's the basis of rebirth theory. Consciousness, there are similar similar role, substantial cause and cooperative cause. Cooperative way.
No.
Cooperative. Or cooperative sort of causes. Now, for example, eye consciousness, the eye organ, you see, is cooperative causes. But awareness, eye consciousness, the part of awareness, for that substantial cause is previous consciousness. So at the time of conception, the substantial causes of the physical from parent, their parent, eventually some sort of jellyfish like that. The further goes very space particle like that. So consciousness, no matter how subtle, particle never be substantial cause of consciousness. Consciousness, no matter how powerful, never become substantial cause of matter, something two different things. Good. Thank you. Good night. See you again tomorrow.